Hi everyone. So we are here today for an interview with some of our graduate teaching assistants, and I'm Nacha and I'm from Learning Sciences Lab. Next I would like to ask you for a couple of tips or strategies that you have picked up from your TA roles.
So my own experience is that you do not start with a very high expectation to your communication with students, like as Jack said. So your first lecture sucks. Your first presentation, it sucks, because even though you think that you have prepared very well and you have made a very good PPT and you prepare several times and you feel like you will make a great course or presentation or anything, but it just turned out that it sucks because there are a lot of unexpected things happens. For me, a very small example is that once I have to deliver a lecture about C programming language, which is something that I think the students are quite familiar with. So I just starting with some very basic things, and then we quickly jump into some very, very funny examples, exercise. I think the second part is very interesting, and I will hit the ground and make them all happy. But it turns out that after 10 minutes, all the students confused because they don't have any background on C programming language. Mm-hmm. So as an alternative, I use the whole course to teach them how to do this experiments, how to write codes, what are the commands about. So, and then all the things that I'm expecting to happen, they do not happen, but just some very boring exercise and teaching. But finally, I still put those good exercises as homework problems, and they come up with me next time, and they feel like, okay, this is still a good lecture. But just, I think you need to think in advance, and there should be a plan B if things does not go well with what you do. So just be prepared and just know that the high expectation does not always come to you.
Yeah. So I guess in terms of keeping students sort of engaged and active, one thing that we found that works really well, if you have the flexibility to do it, try for every 30 minutes to 40 minutes of lecture, build in about 10 minutes of time for students to work in small groups on sort of an example problem on the topic you just covered. This gives you and the professor a chance to walk around and give them immediate feedback in lecture on what they just learned that they can then apply to their homework problems. Sort of along those lines and along the lines of building a rapport with students, put in the time to work through all the test problems and all the homework problems and all the example problems before the students have to do it. It'll take a while, and you're going to be busy as a TA and a graduate student, but it's really invaluable to know exactly what they're dealing with and what the expected solution is. And that will help you a lot in these conversations you'll have with them. So I would say that's probably the most valuable advice I got in terms of being able to communicate with students and make sure they were actually learning sort of the deeper aspects of the material, not just the surface approaches to solving problems.
Great.
Okay, so one huge tip over here is students learn differently. Some students learn from visual cues, some from audio cues. So the rapport is really important because it helps you understand how the students learn. Once you know how the students learn, you can better fit your explanations or the way that you teach to suit those students. So like, for example, if you're going one-on-one with a student, you might want to use analogies, for example, to explain certain things, certain terms. So that using analogies help a lot because it allows them basically to go in your head in a way. Because it allows them to directly understand what you're trying to say and allows them to visualize in their mind an actual process that's happening, or that you're trying to explain, for example. So with students, analogies help a lot. So find examples, real world examples, to give your explanations or whatever things you're trying to teach. Secondly, you're not alone in this. If you are having problems with students, go to your lecturers or your advisors or whoever's in charge. Let him know that you have certain problems that you may not be able to solve. They are definitely more experienced in terms of teaching. Go to them for help. So there are always avenues that you can go to for assistance.
Absolutely. Just 2 points. One that slightly overrides yours regarding the analogies, which I really agree with. One thing that I used to do was sometimes the PowerPoint presentation is static, right? So it's good if you're preparing the PowerPoint presentation, if you could have a build up to what shows up in the slide, then there is a trail of thought that slowly reveals certain things until finally the outcome. What I also felt was handy was to explain my analogies, to literally go hands-on with the board marker on the board and explain it to them. And I would sometimes actually even go to every single group, because in my case they were grouped up, and we had little boards next to every table, and I would explain to make sure they really understood the concept. And I would keep questioning them, did you really? And I would kind of quiz them, and not in a scary way, but in a kind of engaging, fun way. So make sure they understand the basic concept, because if they can't understand the foundation, certain principles, then they were not going to understand the rest. So you need to have this build up. And secondly, it may be the case that there are late submissions, so you definitely want to have some form of discipline, again, in a fun and engaging way. You don't want to be authoritative and scary. So you want to emphasize that it's important that they do submit on time, and make clear that what the consequences may be. But also, you also want to, if there is a late submission, you want to understand why there is a late submission. So you can either contact the student, or students most likely will be taking care of attendance. So most likely you will know, you will have direct contact with the student. So you want to email them and ask them why there's a late submission. They may come with funny excuses. Maybe the dog ate their homework, but in the most cliche ways. But it's good to understand why. Now, it also may be the case that there are many late submissions. So in that case, then you want to speak with the faculty advisor and see perhaps that something is wrong with the type of assignment, or maybe the time assigned for the submission is not enough. So then in that case, it would be good to discuss with your advisor, and would be good if you have a good relationship with your advisor to do so. So communication in these cases is also very important, in both with the advisor and with the students.
Oh, so I think I would give it in 2 stages. Like, one is that when you can, while choosing your TA, if you can choose your TA, that's the best way. Now, in order to prevent yourself from not just doing the administrative work, like, one good thing is that if you know the course, you can also you can look at the course schedule that the professor has prepared, and maybe say, hey, I can maybe give a lecture on this part. So you proactively go and tell your professor, I have something that I can present in this, where maybe the students, like, from your perspective, or some project that you have done from the past that you can present to the students, that is making that concept clearer. So I think this is completely okay, and I think the professors would welcome your suggestions to take that on board. So, and then the second part was, because in my second TA, when I found it difficult to communicate with the students, what my professor told me was just go talk to them, because they wouldn't ask me questions, because I didn't know that software particularly. But he just said, go and talk to them. So what I did was, every group I would just sit down with them, like sit down, kneel down, and say, hey, can I help you with anything? Because it's a project-based course, so I would ask them, do you want my feedback? Do you want to discuss your projects with you? Even if they don't, I'll be like, just tell me your project, and maybe through the process of talking that project to me, something might be clearer to you, and I can help you in a way. So I would go and literally sit with each and every group and try to do this with them. And anytime I had a doubt, I would not try to cover it up. I would say, hey, I do not know, but let me ask that for you. And then I would go up to my professor and ask So also don't be ashamed if you do not know something. I think just be out front, clear that you do not know that concept, and come back to them with the answer that you have. So I think that's 3.
Fantastic. I think your students are really lucky. It's really inspiring to hear your stories, like what you have been doing in class and some of the things that you have tried, and you go out of your way to reach out, being proactive as a TA to both the students and also, connecting with your faculty mentors. So, I hope that you continue in this great teaching mode and go on to teaching in higher education in time to come.